Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Vijana Vallabha Girivaratari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaratari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Ashtata Shata Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, entitled Creation of the Fourth Order, Chapter 11, Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Maharaj. We're on text 26. Esha Bhutani Bhutatma Bhutesho Bhutabhavanaha Swashaktya Maya Yukta Shrijatyati Chapati Cha Esha Bhutani Bhutatma Bhutesho Bhutabhavanaha Sushaktya Maya Yukta Shrijatyati Chapati Cha Esha Bhutani Bhutatma Bhuteshu Sho Bhutabhavanaha Sashaktya Maya Yukta Shatyati Chapati Cha Okay, word by word translation. Eshaha, this, Bhutani, all created beings. Bhuta Atma, the super soul of all living entities. Bhuta Ishaha, the controller of everyone. Bhuta Bhavanaha, the maintainer of everyone. Swashaktya, through his energy. Maya, the external energy. Yuktaha, through such agency. Srijati, creates. Ati, annihilates. Cha, and. Pati, maintains. Cha, and. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supersoul of all living entities. He is the controller and maintainer of everyone. Through the agency of his external energy, he creates, maintains, and annihilates everyone. Purport. There are two kinds of energies in the matter of creation. The Lord creates this material world through his external, material energy, whereas the spiritual world is a manifestation of his internal energy. He is always associated with the internal energy, but he is always aloof from the material energy. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 9:4, the Lord says, Matstani sarva bhutani na chaham tveshva stitaha. All living entities are living on me or on my energy, but I am not everywhere. He is personally always situated in the spiritual world. In the material world also, wherever the Supreme Lord is personally present, is understood to be the spiritual world, as being the spiritual world. For example, the Lord is worshipped in the temple by pure devotees. The temple is therefore to be understood as being the spiritual world. Om Ganatavidandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulanamlitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karitavachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yakripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dintaranam Vancha Kapadribhashta Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Paditanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supersoul of all living entities. He is the controller and maintainer of everyone. Through the agency of his external energy, he creates, maintains, and annihilates everyone. So people who are under the influence of the material energy, they can't understand Krishna consciousness, actually. They can't understand who is Krishna and what is the spiritual world, what is the value of chanting Hare Krishna. They don't understand any of these things. And of course, they would say, well, I do understand, and my understanding is that all of this is a myth. Krishna consciousness is a myth, and it's all useless, and the real goal of my life is to enjoy my senses, sense gratification, or whatever else they may believe. But of course, we say, and repeating Krishna, what Krishna says is that people who are under the influence of the illusory material energy, they can't understand. So similarly, to the degree somebody who's even practicing Krishna consciousness is under the influence of the material energy, means under the influence of the modes of material nature, passion, ignorance, and also goodness. If they're entrapped by these different modes, then they actually also have a hard time understanding. Now, of course, they're not like the out-and-out non-devotees who have no faith, but in terms of understanding and factually realizing, it's also in some ways challenging, although they have way more realization than just a regular non-devotee. So to understand how to understand the material energy is actually very important. How the material energy works, how Maya works, and specifically you could say Maya's tricks. Because if we know how, for example, if we're dealing with somebody who's like a cheater, or we're dealing with people who are like cheaters, who are not like cheaters, who are cheaters, you could, in different ways. Maybe they're trying to cheat us out of our money or whatever, property and so on. If we had money and property. So if we know the mindset of those people, we'll know how to deal with them. But if we think, oh, these are great people, and they're just in it for my own welfare, and they care about me, but if they don't, then, and if we think like that, they'll just easily cheat us. That's why a lot of the times when people first go to India, they're advised to go with somebody. Now, of course, not that everybody who goes to India by themselves is going to get cheated, but there's a big chance. And why is that? Because they see an American person or a person from America, and they think, oh, this person has money, automatically. A lot of them think like that. And therefore they try to jack the prices up for those from America on different things, like a rickshaw ride, for example, from Mayapur campus down to the Ganga. How much does that cost? 10 rupees. I mean, I remember I was in Mayapur, and so they made an announcement in the morning, and they said that somebody paid like a ridiculous amount, like I think it was like thousands of rupees for that ride. From Mayapur campus to Ganga, they charged like thousands of rupees, which was probably $20, $30, $40. You know, the person just didn't know. Somehow or other, they didn't know. I mean, it was quite foolish and naive, but they got cheated. But if the person understood, okay, this is how much it costs, this is the price, and he actually understood, or she understood, that people were out to cheat them, then they'd be more careful, because they understand the workings of it. So similarly, we have to understand the workings of Maya, or the material energy, and therefore Prabhupada would discuss that in his books. He would discuss the workings of Maya, and also what Krishna consciousness is not. So, of course, we talk about what Krishna consciousness is, but we also talk about what Krishna consciousness is not. So once Prabhupada was in his room, and Prabhupada was talking about Maya. He was just talking about the traps of Maya and illusions and this and that, different things, different aspects of material energy. And then one devotee was in there, and then, interesting enough, he told Prabhupada and the other devotees, he said, "Oh, can't we just talk about Krishna? You know, why are we talking about this? Why can't we just talk about Krishna?" And then Prabhupada said, "Oh, we're talking about Maya right now." We're going to continue talking about Maya. Because the idea is that this is Krishna's energy, Maya. So we have to understand how it works, so we're not bewildered by it. Or at least we have less chances of being bewildered by it, if we understand how it works, and also if we surrender to Krishna and engage in Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada's saying here that the material energy, he creates this world through his external material energy, whereas the spiritual world is a manifestation of his internal energy. And he was always associated with the internal energy, but he's always aloof from the material energy. So yeah, the material world and the spiritual world are quite different. They're practically like just 180 degrees different. In the sense that everything one does in the spiritual world is, yes, for Krishna's pleasure, for the devotees' pleasures, for devotees' pleasure. And in that way they also feel pleasure. It's a blissful place. But in the material world, everything's done for one's own pleasure, own satisfaction. So what am I getting out of this? That's always the question. Calculating, what am I getting out of this? Calculating consciousness. And in the spiritual world, it is a place of it is a place in which people don't compete in the way people compete here. Because they may compete how to serve Krishna and how to give Krishna pleasure and so on in the spiritual world. They do that. But it is all in good, it's all in completely transcendental spirit, and ultimately whoever you could say does the best, the other party is happy for them. So there's no ill feelings. Whereas in this world, sometimes if someone's doing good or whatever, or they may do better than us on some regards with something, then we become angry, upset, and maybe try to take that person down somehow. So in the material world, yeah, there's competition. Also in the spiritual world, there's competition, but it's a completely different nature. And also, everyone in the spiritual world, they accept Krishna to be the center of attraction, the center of service, and so on. Whereas in the material world, especially people who are out and out non-devotees, they themselves want to be the center of attraction or attention. And we see this practically. I mean, people, they may have some opulences, right? Women sometimes are very fond or very proud of their beauty, their physical beauty. And also men are sometimes very fond and proud of their physical, handsomeness. Or people are proud of, I have so much money, or I'm very intelligent, or so many different things. I'm very detached, I'm very intelligent, I'm very beautiful, I'm very learned, what else? Wealthy. The 6 opulences that Krishna have. So, now of course, most people because most people aren't absolutely insane, most people, they won't say, oh, well, I'm the most, right? I have all these 6 opulences in full, which they don't. Nobody does. And in many ways, they can't compete with many people. I mean, a lot of people can't compete with certain people, right? Because, in other words, other people may be more rich than them. Other people may be more beautiful than them, physically and so on. But what they do is within their own circles, they compete. That, hey, well, I may not be as rich as whatever, some guy that owns half of SanDiego, but hey, within my own little circle, I could compete. I'm the most wealthy here. Or someone may say, I'm not the most beautiful or handsome person, but okay, but within my circle. So in this way, they compete within their circles for attention, for being the center of attraction. In this way, they are bewildered by the material energy, by Maya. In that they're trying to, on some level, you could say, usurp the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In that they're trying to get that attention in a material way, which is not good. So in this way, the material world and the spiritual world are different. Because in the spiritual world, people understand, okay, they also have opulences. They're also beautiful and handsome, and there's so many opulences they have. They share the opulences with Krishna. But they understand that Krishna is our friend, Krishna is our lover, Krishna is our son, right? Krishna is our master. They understand these different things and they act accordingly. And they're not trying to, in their own way, enjoy material Krishna's opulences. But they're serving Krishna with whatever they have. So that's the difference between the material and spiritual world. So, so in many ways, it's actually like a certain mentality one has. So with the temple is a place where there are material opulences. There are nice temple room here. This is a material opulence. I mean, how many people live in a place or even visit a place that looks like this temple room? So nice. The altar, right? Some marble, and of course Krishna's there. Or this Vyasa-san, or prasad. There's so much opulence, not material opulence, spiritual opulence. And so on. There's a lot of opulence. Of course, in some ways people say, oh, well, the brahmacharis are very simple. And yeah, in many ways we do. But in some other ways, there's actually quite a lot of opulence. So the question is, how are we supposed to see all this? We're supposed to see it as servants of Krishna. That here's the temple room, and it's a nice temple room, and for the pleasure of Krishna. And of course, for pleasure of its preaching also. So the idea is not to see it as a materialistic sense enjoyer. That this is such a nice place, let me materialistically enjoy it. Or this is such nice prasadam, let me materialistically enjoy it. So in other words, forget who owns it, forget whose it's coming from, and forget the whole purpose behind it. And in this way, we do not see it as the spiritual world. We just see it as a nice place, as nice food, as nice people, or whatever. We don't see it as the spiritual world if we're thinking like this. And that could create some difficulty because if one doesn't transcend that level of understanding or mentality, then it's very difficult to live in a temple with that mentality. And in many ways, that's why many people leave, because they actually fail to see it in its proper light or proper perspective. And then they just become offensive. They just try to enjoy this place, and then over time, it doesn't work, because they're not seeing it in a service, with a service attitude. So that's the idea, to see it in the proper perspective, which practically means to see it as a place of service to Krishna, to the devotees, to people in general, and to therefore utilize it in its for its proper function. And yeah, I mean, it's actually quite surprising how low people fall in their mentalities. It's absolutely amazing, because, I mean, at one point they're thinking, oh, this is so great, and look at this place, and everything's just so wonderful, and then over time everything just becomes really mundane to them, because they're not seeing it properly. They may even lose faith that Krishna even exists. They just think, oh, these are just statues. These are just dolls. And yeah, these are statues, these are dolls. The Charnamrita's ordinary. Prabhupada's an ordinary man. The devotees are ordinary people. Prasadam's just food. And in this way, the Shastra, the scripture says that one has a hellish mentality. They have a hellish mentality. So the idea is not to fall into that state of consciousness, but to always be trying to see things in their proper perspective. Which means that our ignorance has to be removed. And until our ignorance is not removed, our vision will be blurred by the three modes of material nature, and by just mundane vision. And practically speaking, how do we get our ignorance removed? That has to come through our sincere chanting and offenseless chanting. We want to strive for offenseless chanting. It means there's 10 offenses. There's 3 stages of chanting, right? There's the offensive stage, in which one is just committing offenses. There's 10 offenses, and one just commits them. Different offenses: inattentive, blaspheming devotees, taking the holy name as to be an exaggeration. Different offenses one could commit. So that's offensive stage. And then there's the clearing stage. The clearing stage is when one endeavors to give up the 10 offenses. So one actually tries. They look at every offense and they say, okay, now I'm trying to give up every single offense. And then after struggling with that for some time, then there's the offenseless stage, which means the pure chanting, in which one is not committing offenses. They're just chanting purely. And that's what we're trying to go for. So to the degree of our chanting and hearing and engaging in devotional service, to the degree that it's pure and not mixed, to that degree we're able to not have our vision blurred and not be influenced by ignorance. So yeah, it's a challenge. It's work and all that, but it's very important that we do that. So Prabhupada would say sometimes that different places are considered to be either rajasic, tamasic, or sattvic, passionate, ignorant, or in goodness. So he would say that the forest, or places like that, are in the mode of goodness. Yosemite Park, probably in the mode of goodness. Well, all the tourists go there and kind of muddle it all up, but in itself, it's in the mode of goodness, Yosemite Park. There's some loungers that, Krishna loungers that, they came from Yosemite Park, they're living there. Apparently you could live there, I don't know much about it, but so then they told me the other day, they said, oh, we're going back to Yosemite. I said, oh yeah, okay. And they were saying, yeah, I don't know how you do it, stay in the city. I say, yeah, well, practically speaking, the only reason we're in the city is for propagating Krishna consciousness, spreading Krishna consciousness, or else we wouldn't be here. We'd be out in the country somewhere. Or we'd go to India or something, countryside. So we're here to spread Krishna consciousness. And if we're in that mentality of spreading Krishna consciousness, preaching Krishna consciousness, or just being Krishna conscious, the city actually won't affect us so much to the degree we're engaged. And we actually won't even feel like we're in the city. So there's the city life that is considered to be passionate, or the Yosemite and other places are sattvic, and then there's a city life which is passionate, rajasic. The cars flying by and the passionate people and businessmen and women, no offense. Police sirens, and it's just a passionate place, surcharged. And then the mode of ignorant places are, like one bhakta said he was, before he joined the temple, I mean, it's kind of weird, but said he was living in like a club, like a, I don't know, like a bar club place. He was living there. I don't even know how you do that. And taking drugs and stuff like that. So that's considered to be in the mode of ignorance, such places. But then he says the temple is considered to be not in goodness, not in passion, not in ignorance, Shuddha-sattva, the mode of pure, or you could say not mode, but the state of pure goodness, which means spiritual, transcendental, spiritual world. So sometimes we may perceive that, and sometimes we don't. So the idea is that we have to become qualified. We have to become qualified to see the spiritual world, just as we have to become qualified to see Krishna. So it's not that automatically one who situates themselves in the temple can automatically see that it's the spiritual world. But through training, through education, and you could say most importantly, through austerity, which is the wealth of the Brahmins, they can become qualified to see the spiritual world. The temple is the spiritual world. And yeah, Krishna will reveal that, I mean, when Lord Brahma was in the beginning of the creation, he was there and he didn't know what to do, and he was on the lotus stem and flower, and there's just darkness around, and he was meditating, and then he heard he heard something, tapa. I think he heard it 3 times, tapa, tapa. So tapa, which means austerity. So he understood, okay, I need to perform austerity. So he did that, and he meditated, and in this way created the whole universe. But not only that, from his austerity, the whole spiritual world was revealed to him. And therefore Brahma Samhita, right? Chintamani prakara sadma sukalpa vriksha laksha vateshu siddhabir vipalyantam lakshmi sahasra shatasam brahma sevyama govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. So Chintamani, the whole spiritual world's made of Chintamani, gems, which is like transcendental touchstones. Kalpa vriksha, the desire trees, you could get anything you desire. So in this world, you go to a coconut tree, and you can't get anything else besides a coconut. But in the spiritual world, you could go to the desire tree and you get a coconut, you get a mango, whatever, apple, anything. It's all organic. And then the surabhi, the cows. So the cows, they give unlimited quantities of milk. They don't stop giving milk. In this world, they stop giving milk. So they give unlimited quantities of milk, as much as a person needs. And Krishna's there playing his flute, and he's served by hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis or goddesses of fortune. And there's a whole series of verses Lord Brahma chants about the spiritual world. So that is how it was revealed to him. So we cannot understand with our material intelligence, we can understand being heavily influenced by the modes. We can't understand by so many ways that we can't understand Krishna, we can't understand the spiritual world, we can't understand that the temple is above all the modes and is the spiritual world. Unless we develop a service attitude towards the spiritual master, Krishna and the devotees, and until we perform devotional austerities, and then we could understand. So, all right, does anyone have any questions? Yes? Comments? I think they want you to have that mic. Oh, you have the mic there.
Krishna's external energy is called Maya. In the spiritual world, his internal energy, what is that called?
Yogamaya.
Oh, okay. Yoga.
Yeah. Maha. You want to, got to be under the influence of Yogamaya. That's the idea. So we have to transfer ourselves. Means ourselves being influenced or controlled by Mahamaya. We have to be under the control of Yogamaya. Just like Prabhupada was under the control, you could say, of Yogamaya. All pure devotees are under the control of Yoga. It means they act under the inspiration of Krishna. Whereas the ordinary people, they act under inspiration of their whimsical desires. Lust and anger and greed and all that. Under Maya. Their own material desires. So we have to act under the spiritual desires, and under the influence of Krishna. And that's actually how one is able to, that's how all preachers are actually able to do anything substantial, is they're acting under the influence of Krishna. Krishna's spiritual energy. They're empowered by that energy. So yeah, I mean, it takes some time, usually, to become some empowered preacher or something, but that's the idea, to somehow or other do that. And that practically means we have to strive to give up the offenses, like I was saying, and also our attachments and our pride and all those other things. So, yeah. I think he wants you to pass the mic.
So in Shastra it says that the soul is not the doer, but it's the modes of material nature that are causing one to act. And also desire. So if one's desires are being conducted by the mode of nature, influenced by the modes of nature that they're in, how is it, maybe you could talk about how is it that one can come to desire something else, like maybe they want to come to Krishna consciousness, or just something higher if they're
being controlled by lower?
Yeah. How is it that works? They at some point come to
Hare Krishna. Well, in many ways, it's like an addict. They're addicted to something, heroin or cocaine or methamphetamine or whatever, alcohol. So when they're addicted to these things, they're just absolutely controlled by that. It means they don't want to do it. Actually, sometimes at some you could say saner moments in their life, they don't want to take that needle and shoot it in their arm and shoot the heroin in their arm and and what do they call, veg out there, because that's what heroin does. It just makes you veg out. You're like a vegetable. You're like merged into whatever, some state of pleasure. And then later you suffer. And you're sick and you're vomiting and you feel like you're going to die, and until you get some more. You have to get some more so that sickness will go away. So over time, people realize that, oh, I really don't want to do this, but they're forced by their own conditioning, by their own mind, by their own desires for it. They're absolutely forced. So how is one supposed to get out of that? They have to struggle, they have to suffer, they have to fight with their mind, they have to fight with their free will, they have to fight with their intelligence. But a lot of the times that's not good enough. They have to get the help of somebody else. Somebody has to, grab them by the shirt, grab them by the neck, grab them by the ear, drag them to a rehabilitation center in which they lock them up, practically speaking, and don't let them take any drugs and make them attend classes and do all types of other things for them to somehow or other forget and overcome that problem. So, in many ways, people who are in the modes, people in general, yeah, there has to be an intervention, and that's where devotees come in. That's why we're into preaching. That's why we're into spreading Krishna consciousness. That's why we're into teaching others. And even we go out all over the world and out on the streets. And why do we do that? Because we don't have thousands of people lining up here. Because they're addicts of the material world and they don't know what's good for them. So that's how desires change. One has to be influenced. One has to be by others. Or else it's very difficult for a lot of people. And a lot of people, like some people will come on their own, but a lot of people won't. So we have to go out of our way and try to influence them. And people sometimes, also people's words. That's why it's good to have association, because even a few words from one devotee or from a particular devotee or for someone, they can completely break our attachments to certain things. Even such a thing as heroin. I mean, it's quite an addiction, actually. There was one person I know, and he was addicted to heroin. And to get people off, they make them take these pills, which are legal apparently, and it's a way to kind of gradually get them off of heroin by taking these pills, which produce a similar effect. So this person was going to an office, and he would go there every week or whatever, and he would get his fix of so many pills in a bottle. So then one guy, he's like a social worker, he saw this person, and he looked at him in the eyes, and he went like this. So then that person came, and then the social worker looked at him. He said, "How long are you going to do this? Are you going to do this your whole life?" Because it's best actually to get off the pills completely. So how long are you going to do that? Are you going to do this your whole life? Are you going to keep on coming back here and doing this? And, you should really get off these pills. And he was like really kind of like hammering him, in an intense way, like chastising him, practically. And then the person just kind of like snapped out. He said, "Yeah, you're right." And then he just quit. And he never went back and got those pills. So the power of association, people, it may take some time for certain attachments to be broken, but Therefore, we're advised to not isolate ourselves from devotees, because people say, oh, well, why do I have to have a living guru? I mean, they may have a Diksha guru who's living, but they may not get so much association. But then they say, why do I have a living guru? Living gurus. And Prabhu would say, because you need someone to pull your ear. As if you're going off course, you need someone to tell you. So people who just don't associate with devotees, I'm talking about devotees. Devotees who don't associate with devotees kind of isolate themselves. It's really dangerous, because they have no social pressure, they have no peer pressure. They could be smoking pot and, thinking it's the most wonderful thing in the world, and not understanding that it's not good. And I mean, for example, and, whatever, doing so many other things, being offensive in different ways, and they could think that they're just good, that they're righteous, that they're, they know what they're doing and everything like that. But if they had social pressure, if they had peer pressure, what to speak if they had shiksha gurus, they would really benefit from that. So, yeah, that's the point, the power of association. That's how desires change. So, all right, Julie. All right, Grantaraj srimadbhagavatam ki jai. Some devotees smoke pot. I'm not saying they're demons, or it's, like they're going to hell or something, but there are some devotees who do certain things, but still they think they're kind of, they're a little proud, and they think they're advanced, and they know what Krishna consciousness is, and so on, even though they're doing so many things that are actually against the basic principles of Krishna consciousness. That's what I'm talking about. So if devotees struggle with certain things, whatever, I'm not holding it against them. I'm just saying there's a certain kind of arrogance I see sometimes. That's what I'm talking about. So it's a difference. A humble, pot-smoking devotee and a... Anyways, Hare Krishna.